Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the DarkEnergy core rulebook. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this high-tech, high-fantasy role-playing game, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the giants and the goblinoids. Let's start with the giants. Simply called giants by lesser creatures, the Eliud are a ferocious species of enormous beings. The Eliud first came into existence shortly after the first fall, when the fallen left heaven and lusted after mortal women. The children produced were the Nephilim. The offspring of the Nephilim were the first Eliud. These giants were far larger than mortal creatures, and they had inherited the cruelty and savagery of their Nephilim progenitors. They terrorized the mortal realms until after the war in heaven, when the Creator caused a flood to wash away the corruption of the Nephilim and the Eliud. However, a group of celestials called the Jotun rescued some of the Nephilim and Eliud before the flood could wash them all away. The Jotun hid the Eliud and claimed them as their own. Some Eliud were also saved by an exceptionally evil group of Jotun known as the Muspel. Since then, the Eliud have been faithful followers of the Jotun. Due to the rivalry between the Jotun and the Aesir, the Eliud have a deep hatred for dwarves. Today, the majority of Eliud live in remote villages scattered across various worlds and mainly avoid other species, preferring a solitary existence. The main exception to this are the Eliud on Svartalfheim, that are in a state of perpetual war with the Dwarven Empire. Despite the Jotun's protection, a few clans of Eliud have held to the worship of their Nephilim parent. These giants have a lot of hit points, 50 hit points in total. That's more than the Cyclops even. They are large and they are quite fast. When it comes to their alignment, they tend towards evil when under the influence of a Nephilim or Muspel, but left to their own devices, they are generally more neutral. They are proficient in the use of clubs, and can speak, read and write Common and Eliud languages. More intelligent giants can choose an additional language. Now when it comes to traits and appearance, the Eliud character has certain traits deriving from giant ancestry. Giants are solitary beings that can range in height anywhere from 8 to 16 feet tall. Eliud mature slower than humans, reaching adulthood well after the age of 300. They age noticeably slower and are believed to be immortal. Giants look like enormous humans, but an Eliud will eventually take on the appearance of its surroundings if it remains in one area for an extended period of time. They have great strength and constitution, but they are not very good when it comes to intelligence and dexterity. Let's talk about some of the races. These giants can be divided in 3 groups based on their primary allegiance. You have Frost Giants, loyal to the Jotun. You have Fire Giants that follow the will of the Muspel. And Clan Giants worship the Nephilim. Let's talk about each of these groups. We start with Clan Giants. These Eliud are zealous followers of their Nephilim progenitors, and will do whatever the Nephilim commands, without question. They are rare, but can be found bringing chaos and corruption wherever they go. Next we have the Fire Giants. These Eliud were saved by the Muspel, and have given this evil Jotun their loyalty. They prefer to live in hot places like volcanoes, and they take pleasure in causing other creatures pain. Then we have the Frost Giants. Most Eliud worship their Jotun saviors. They generally dwell in cold regions that other races find too inhospitable. All of these different groups of giants have a free ability augment. Now when it comes to giant traits, you have things such as Icy Life. You gain resistance to cold damage. There's also Fearless. You receive a bonus to saving throws against fear effects. You also have Thick Skin. You have resistance against bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing damage the first time you take damage of one of those types. This can be used once per short rest. There's also Heavy Expert. You don't take any movement penalty for wearing heavy armor or shields. And these are just some of the traits. Next we have the Goblinoids. They are a family of related humanoid species. Most Goblinoids have an evil reputation and enjoy causing pain and suffering, though their methods and motivation for doing so vary between races. They are generally destructive and universally despised by other species. When not enslaved by larger creatures, it is common to find goblinoids of different species working together, often led by the cunning and ambitious hobgoblins. Goblinoids live a violent tribal lifestyle, with constant shifts in power. They are not good at farming or hunting and gain most of their food and materials by stealing. They are incapable of building strong structures and are usually driven out of easily accessible locations and forced to live in remote and abandoned places. The goblinoid species has no known homeworld, but can be found on many worlds. Generally, they are unpopular with other species and live on the fringes of other civilizations. When it comes to hit points, it varies. We will talk about that in a few moments. The size also varies. And speed, they are actually somewhat fast, with 30 feet of movement. When it comes to alignment, goblinoids can fluctuate their alignment on a whim, but they delight in causing pain and misery. They lean heavily towards evil, but respect tribal authority and are generally lawful when kept in line by a strong warlord. They also have dark vision. They have superior vision in dark and dim conditions, up to a certain distance. When it comes to languages, goblinoids can speak, read and write Common and Goblin, and more intelligent goblinoids can choose an additional language. When it comes to proficiencies, they are trained in simple weapons and medium armor. Let's talk about traits and appearance. Your goblinoid character has certain traits deriving from your goblinoid ancestry. Though varied in form, all goblinoids have certain traits in common, notably sharply pointed ears, a shared language, a lifestyle of hunting and raiding, and an aptitude at stealth. Goblins have naturally long arms and are usually less than 4 feet in height. The gob's skin can range from dark green to sickly yellow. They have small heads with wide noses, red eyes and large pointed ears. Then we have hobgoblins. They have naturally thick muscles and average around 7 feet tall. The hobs are known for their greenish-gray skin, yellow eyes and large noses. The bugbears are the largest and most vicious goblinoid. They are the hairy brutes that were born to battle. Then we have the Kijimuna. They are very similar in appearance to goblins, but are easily identifiable by their red hair, small size and large heads. Then we have the gremlins. They are the smallest goblinoid. They look like tiny goblins with wide mouths with rows of needle-like teeth. Goblinoids mature faster than humans, reaching adulthood around age 6. They age noticeably faster, but their lifespan is unknown due to their brutal lifestyle and tendency towards violence. They have good constitution and they get a free augment, but they are not very good in matters of intelligence. Let's talk about the races of the goblinoids. Goblins are quite ferocious and quite common. They form the backbone of any goblinoid army. Goblins are not the most intelligent creatures and are usually found taking orders from larger hobgoblins. They are quite fragile when it comes to hit points, but they are small so they get a bonus to armor class. They get a dexterity augment. Hobgoblins are often found lording over their cousins, the smaller goblins and the ferocious bugbears. Hobgoblins have a long history of training animals to service. They have a strong grasp of tactics and discipline, and can carry out sophisticated battle plans under the direction of a strategically minded leader. They are quite decent in hit points, and they are of medium size. They have an augment in wisdom. Bugbears prefer a more solitary lifestyle than other goblinoids. They do not get along with others and pick fights whenever possible. The promise of treasure and bloodshed are the only means to get a bugbear to follow orders. They actually have more hit points when compared to hobgoblins, and they are of medium size with an augment on strength. Then we have the Kijimuna. Unlike all other goblinoids, the Kijimuna are not evil, but rather mischievous tricksters with a chaotic nature. They live in trees and prefer to be near running water or the ocean, as their favorite food is fish. They are quite fragile in terms of hit points, but they are small and therefore obtain a bonus to armor class. Their augment is charisma based. Then we have gremlins, which are tiny and enjoy causing havoc. especially by tinkering with technology and causing it to malfunction. They aren't necessarily smarter than other goblinoids, but they do have a knack for breaking things. They are quite fragile in terms of hit points. They only have 1 hit point, and unlike the fairies, they don't have that natural ability of resurrection. But because they are tiny, they do get a bonus to armor class. Their augment is dexterity. Let's talk about some of the goblinoid race traits. You have Ambusher. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that you have surprised. You also have martial advantage. Once per turn, you can deal an extra 2d6 of damage to a creature you hit with a weapon attack if that creature is within 5 feet of an ally that isn't incapacitated. You also have Insult Artist. Insults are your pastime. You gain the cantrip Vicious Mockery. Charisma is your spellcasting ability for this spell. There's also Bite. As a bonus action, your Bite can be used as a melee weapon attack. It does 2d4 plus strength modifier of damage. It counts as piercing damage. And if you are a gremlin, you could use Sabotage. You have proficiency in the Disable Device skill. If a class or background fit also grants proficiency with the Disable Device skill, this trait grants a +2 instead. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about humans and kobolds. I really like the approach taken towards giants and goblinoids in this role-playing game. I especially like the giants. They are the toughest of all of the species included in this core rulebook when it comes to hit points. And they have that complex background of being divided in 3 groups depending on their allegiances towards different so-called saviors. And when it comes to goblinoids, there is a lot of variety. Any hobgoblin, goblin, gremlin, Kijimuna, bugbear falls into this category, but they have a lot of variety because of that. They vary in size, in hit points, in what they are good at. So you could have an entire party of goblinoids and they would all feel quite different. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you and see you later.